The bank teller's face twisted into a mask of professional horror as she stared at the check in my hand, her fingers hovering over the keyboard like claws frozen in mid-strike. "Ma'am, this can't be right," she stammered, her voice a thin whisper that sliced through the sterile hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. The air smelled of polished marble and stale coffee, thick with the weight of routine transactions turned nightmare. My heart slammed against my ribs, a wild animal trapped in my chest, as two security guards materialized from the shadows, their badges glinting like accusations. "Step away from the counter," one barked, his hand inching toward his belt. I felt the world tilt, humiliation burning my cheeks as other customers turned to gawk, their murmurs a rising tide of judgment. This was supposed to be a joke, a stupid family prank, but now with handcuffs clicking around my wrists, the laughter from last night echoed in my ears like a curse. Grandpa's fake check for $500,000 wasn't fake at all. It was a trap, and I'd walked right into it. The night before, the family dinner had started innocently enough, the kind of gathering that masked our fractures with forced cheer. Our old Victorian house in the suburbs of Chicago groaned under the weight of too many secrets, its creaking floorboards and faded wallpaper a testament to generations of unspoken resentments. The dining room smelled of roasted turkey and cranberry sauce, the table cluttered with mismatched china and half-empty wine glasses. I was 28, still living in the basement apartment Grandpa had converted for me years ago, scraping by on freelance graphic design gigs that barely covered my student loans. Grandpa, at 82, sat at the head like a withered king, his liver-spotted hands trembling as he poured himself another scotch. Mom and Dad flanked him, their smiles too tight, eyes darting like they were guarding a vault. "Happy birthday, kiddo," Grandpa wheezed, sliding an envelope across the table with a theatrical flourish. His voice was gravelly from decades of cigars, but there was a glint in his eye, a mischievous spark I'd always mistaken for affection. I tore it open, expecting the usual $50 bill or a corny card. Instead, a check stared back at me. $500,000 made out in his spidery handwriting, from an account I'd never heard of. My breath caught. For a split second, hope flared. Could this be real? The escape from debt, the fresh start I'd dreamed of in the dead of night. Then the laughter erupted. Mom's high-pitched cackle first, followed by Dad's booming guffaw. "Oh, honey, your face," Mom gasped, wiping tears from her eyes. "Priceless." "It's a fake, sweetie," Grandpa chuckled, leaning back in his chair. "Just a little joke. Printed it up on my old computer. Thought it'd give you a thrill." The room spun. Humiliation crashed over me like ice water, freezing the blood in my veins. I'd confided in them about my struggles, the eviction notice looming, the credit card bills piling up like accusations of failure. And this was their response. A cruel mimicry of salvation. I forced a smile, my lips quivering, but inside, resentment coiled like a snake. "Hilarious," I muttered, folding the check and shoving it into my pocket. The rest of the evening blurred into awkward small talk, their jokes landing like barbs. As I retreated to my basement, the check burned in my jeans, a reminder of how little they thought of me. Lying in bed that night, the darkness pressed in, heavy with the scent of damp concrete and forgotten laundry. Anger simmered, turning to a bitter resolve. What if it wasn't fake? Grandpa had always been eccentric, hoarding stories of his glory days in real estate, hinting at hidden wealth. Mom and Dad dismissed it as senile ramblings. But what if? Denial whispered that it was impossible, but desperation shouted louder. By dawn, obsession took root. Cash it. If it bounced, fine. Another embarrassment to add to the pile. But if it didn't? Oh, the fantasies bloomed like poison flowers. I'd pay off my debts, move out, leave their pitying glances behind. No more poor Ellie jokes at family gatherings. The bank loomed that morning, a glass and steel monolith under a slate-gray sky spitting sleet. My boots squeaked on the wet floor as I approached the teller, a young woman with a name tag reading Sarah. I slid the check under the glass partition, my hands slick with sweat. "I'd like to deposit this, please." She scanned it, her brow furrowing. This is substantial. Let me verify. Minutes stretched like taffy, the clock ticking a relentless accusation. Then her eyes widened. It's clearing. The funds are available. Joy exploded in my chest, real, dizzying euphoria. $500,000. But then the phone at her station rang. She listened, her face paling. Ma'am, there's an issue. The account holder flagged this check as fraudulent. Security is on their way. Fraudulent. The word hit like a gut punch. What? No, it's from my grandpa. He gave it to me. The guards arrived, their grips iron on my arms. As they marched me to a back room, panic clawed at my throat. Heartbreak mingled with fury. How could he do this? The joke wasn't just cruel. It was calculated. In the sterile interrogation room, smelling of cheap air freshener and fear, a detective arrived. Balding with a coffee-stained tie, he laid out photos, the check, bank records. Your grandfather reported this stolen from his desk. Says you must have forged it. Your parents corroborate. Said you were desperate for money. Betrayal sliced deeper than any knife. They knew. They'd laughed, knowing I'd try, knowing it'd land me here. Why? The question gnawed as I sat in a holding cell, the clang of bars echoing my shattered trust. Hours later, bail posted by a sympathetic aunt, I stumbled home under a bruised twilight sky. The house lights glowed warmly, mocking me. Inside, Mom and Dad waited in the living room, faces etched with feigned concern. Ellie, what happened? Mom asked, her voice syrupy sweet. The police called. Said you tried to cash a fake check. I stared at them, resentment boiling into rage. It cleared at first. Grandpa reported it stolen. You knew. Dad shifted, his chair creaking. Honey, he's old. Confused. We thought it was a joke too. Their eyes betrayed them, guilt flickering like shadows. That night, alone again, obsession hardened into cold resolve. I'd uncover the truth. Why frame me? What were they hiding? Days blurred into a haze of quiet investigation. I rifled through Grandpa's study when they were out, the room dusty with the scent of old books and cigar smoke. Hidden in a locked drawer, key swiped from Dad's ring, I found statements, a secret account with millions. Grandpa wasn't poor. He'd amassed a fortune in shady real estate deals, off-the-books investments. Mom and Dad's signatures on transfers. They'd been siphoning funds, perhaps for years. The pieces clicked. Grandpa was dying, cancer, whispered in family hushed tones. They wanted the inheritance undivided. Me. The black sheep, the failure. They saw me as a threat, a potential claimant. The joke check was bait, designed to discredit me, paint me as a thief. If convicted, I'd be out of the will, maybe even jailed. Guilt tugged at me, had I been so blind? But doubt crept in too. Was revenge worth it? They were family. Yet the humiliation replayed. Their laughter, the cuffs, the stares. Fantasies swirled, exposing them, watching their empire crumble. Fear whispered warnings. What if they caught on? Moral conflict raged. Justice or vengeance? The line blurred. I started small, strategic. Hacked Dad's email with a guest password. Our dog's name, predictable. Messages to lawyers. Ensure Ellie gets nothing. Use the incident. Suppressed rage fueled me. I gathered evidence quietly, heart pounding with each creak of the house. Tension built like a storm. At dinner one night, Grandpa's cough rattled like death's rattle. Ellie, you okay after that bank mess? He asked, eyes twinkling falsely. Fine, I replied, voice steady, but inside obsession burned. Planning consumed me. Anonymous tips to the IRS, forged documents of my own. Doubt nagged. Could I really destroy them? The slow burn ignited when I found the will in Mom's safe, cracked with a YouTube tutorial, the metal cold under my fingers. I was disinherited post-incident. Heartbreak solidified into resolve. They betrayed me first. Now payback. The rain hammered the roof like accusatory fists as I sat in my basement, the glow of my laptop screen casting ghostly shadows on the peeling walls. The air was thick with the musty tang of mildew and my own unwashed desperation. Evidence sprawled before me. Printed emails, bank statements, the will, a dossier of deceit. Anger had evolved into a cold, calculating obsession, each breath laced with resentment. But guilt gnawed too. Destroying them meant destroying fragments of myself. Fantasies of justice warred with doubt. Was I becoming the monster they painted me as? I tested the waters subtly. At breakfast the next morning, the kitchen smelled of burnt toast and brewing coffee, tension crackling like static. Found some old papers in Grandpa's study, I said casually, buttering my bread. Mom froze, her spoon clinking against her mug. What papers? Oh, just financial stuff. Interesting how much he's squirreled away. My voice was light, but my eyes locked on theirs, watching for cracks. Dad chuckled, forced. He's always been a saver. Nothing to worry about. But their glances exchanged volumes. Fear, calculation. Suspense coiled tighter. That afternoon, I overheard them whispering in the hall, voices muffled through the door. She knows too much, Mom hissed. We need to handle this. Handle me. The words ignited fury, but I bided my time, planning in the quiet hours. Moral conflict raged. Expose them publicly, or something more personal. Fear of consequences loomed. If caught, I'd be the villain. Yet heartbreak from their betrayal pushed me forward. They laughed at my pain. Now I'd make them feel it. I started with small acts of sabotage, building suspense like a noose tightening. Swapped Grandpa's meds with placebos one night. Harmless, but enough to spike his blood pressure, send him to the ER. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and regret as I feigned concern at his bedside. What happened? I asked innocently. Damned pills, he grumbled, but his eyes held suspicion. Mom and Dad hovered, their worry laced with paranoia. Ellie, you didn't touch anything, did you? Of course not. My smile was a blade. Inside, guilt twisted, he was frail, dying. But resentment whispered justification. He'd framed me, laughed at my fall. Evidence grew. Using a burner phone, I tipped the bank fraud unit anonymously. Check the elder abuse on account 47892. Investigators called the house days later, the doorbell ringing like a death knell. Dad answered, his face ashen as he ushered them in. I eavesdropped from the stairs, heart thundering. We're looking into irregular transfers, the suit said. From Mr. Harlan's account to yours. It's all legal, Dad blustered, but sweat beaded his brow. Mom shot me a glance through the crack, accusation, fear. Tension simmered, conversations turning clipped, laced with unspoken threats. Nights brought nightmares. Handcuffs again, but this time on them. Doubt plagued me. What if I went too far? Obsession drove me deeper. I forged a letter from Grandpa's lawyer, slipping it into the mail. Revising will to include Ellie fully, suspect foul play. The house erupted that evening, shouts echoing through the vents. You did this. Mom screamed at me in the kitchen, her face contorted with rage. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows. Meddling in things you don't understand. Me. You're the ones stealing from him. The words burst out, suppressed rage finally unleashed. Dad stepped between us, his hands raised like shields. Enough. Ellie, you don't know the half of it. Then tell me, I demanded, voice trembling with heartbreak. Why frame me? Why the check? Silence stretched thick as fog. Grandpa shuffled in, cane tapping like a metronome of doom. Sit down, girl. His voice was weary, layered with regret. They confessed in halting bursts. The fortune was from Grandpa's mob ties in the 70s, dirty money laundered through real estate. Mom and Dad had been managing it, skimming for their retirement. When Grandpa's cancer hit, they panicked. I might contest the will, expose everything. The check. A real one, but reported stolen to discredit me. It was to protect the family, Dad said, eyes pleading. Protect. Betrayal burned anew. You humiliated me. Nearly jailed me. Tears stung but resolve hardened. They begged forgiveness, promises of shares, but it was too late. The moral gray deepened. I'd become the avenger, but at what cost? Revenge crescendoed. I leaked the full dossier to the FBI tip line. Anonymous uploads from a library computer, the keys clacking like gunfire. Days later, agents raided the house at dawn, doors splintering, shouts piercing the air. I watched from my basement window, heart a storm of guilt and triumph. Mom's sobs, Dad's curses, Grandpa's frail protests. They were cuffed, led away. But the twist came in the interrogation room, where I was called as a witness. The lead agent, a stern woman with steel-gray hair, laid out files. Your family's dirty, but so's the money trail. Turns out you accessed those accounts too. Hacked emails, forgeries. We're charging you as an accomplice. Shock iced my veins. They'd planted evidence. Or had my vengeance looped back? As cuffs clicked again, poetic justice hit. In pursuing revenge, I'd betrayed myself. The cell door clanged shut, echoing their laughter from that fateful night. Humiliation complete, but in the cold resolve of solitude, one thought lingered. Was it worth it? The answer, twisted and gray, was yes.